Welcome to episode number 110. I'm your host, Tamera Gaede, and this is the Closing Table with Lawyers title. Today, my special guest is going to talk about the state of the DFW real estate economy right after this.
Welcome to the Closing Table with host Tamera Gaede, where we break down how to be successful in real estate and what it's really like to work in the real estate business. This is the Closing Table with Lawyers title.
Welcome back again. I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. Today's guest, this one's going to be a good one, y'all. I have Dr. Blake Bennett. He is a professor and extension economist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. And a lot of you guys already know Dr. Bennett. So I'm very excited to have him on the show today. He is wicked smart, and he's going to talk to us all about what's going on in the DFW real estate economy. Hey, Blake, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you on the show. So I like to dive right in, okay? Can we talk about where we're at right now? Okay, let's set the stage. What is today? Today is November 4th. Election day. Election day. Has everybody voted? So let's talk about where we are right now with the DFW real estate economy, State of the Union, and then we're going to talk about how the economy flows. But let's start with where we are.
Well, look, I guess it depends on if you're looking at the numbers or looking at the feeling of everybody.
Oh, I can tell you about the feeling.
I know you can. I know you can. Numbers-wise, I think that we're in a correction mode.
Okay.
Prices are softening a little bit. Absolutely, they are. If you look across the entire Metroplex, prices are not that far below where they were last year on average.
Yeah, your slides typically show it's not that dramatic.
It's really not, and number of sales are not down much from last year. Now, you get into certain zip codes, absolutely. But I do think that we're still in a correction mode coming out of the pandemic time period. It's not as crazy as it was then, but I think we're okay. I think we're okay.
We're okay. No, we miss it. But that's okay. You're right. I mean, we are in a correction mode, but I wanted you to kind of talk about where we are right now because you kind of tapped into it. We have a lot of fatigue, realtor fatigue right now. Everyone's tired. It's hard to get deals to be put together. Listings are like delisting. That's a new term where sellers are coming back out of the market because their house isn't selling for what they think they need to get out of it. Right. So, you know, give us some hope, give us some positivity, give us something. How are we going to end this year?
Well, sellers tend to be backward looking. And I think you have some sellers out there that are unrealistic that still think it's 2021. It's not 2021. Sellers are wanting a little bit more than what the market is currently saying. Right, exactly. And so it's a very difficult situation that the real estate industry has to deal with, because you have sometimes maybe an unrealistic segment of the sellers, which I've been one. Yeah, I wanted more for my house. Buyers, maybe a little bit unrealistic as well. And I think that buyers are on the fence chasing that rate, which honestly is a pretty bad move, waiting for the rate. You can always refinance. You've only got one shot to lock in how much you're going to finance.
But when you did an economic look back, I don't know what you call State of the Union, I don't know, whatever we call it, in just a couple of weeks ago for us. And you were talking about how, you know, the numbers this year are going to end up a little bit ahead of 2024.
I think that they very well could across DFW. We've got a very strong real estate market in DFW. We're insulated from a lot of the rest of the nation and typically the rest of the state. For some reason, our economy is more diverse here, and we are insulated.
For some reason, you have reasons.
Well, yeah, I think we've got our diversification across the entire economy of DFW. It's not just tied up in one sector, which if that sector's doing great, then it's wonderful. If the sector's struggling and you're dependent on that sector, you've got some problems.
Okay, so that's the, you know, kind of the conversations that I have with a lot of my clients is, look, you know, it's not exciting. You know, the real estate market hasn't been exciting, but the producers are still producing, right?
Sure.
And most everyone that I have had conversations with are going to end up in a positive note in 25 over 24. Not super exciting, but somewhere around like 10, 15, 18% above 2024's production.
Absolutely.
Okay. And you agree with that?
I agree with that. Real estate to me is fascinating because pricing a home, if you're pulling comparable sales, you typically look 3 to 6 months in the past. Today's market's not 6 months ago. 6 months ago, we were probably at our peak or near our peak. It was right in the middle of the spring market. You have to stay ahead of that trend. You have to know that, okay, 6 months ago, we were saying May. May, June is typically our peak for DFW. It pulls back into the fall months, and that's just normally the
normal cycle.
That's exactly right. We normally have a spring market. In fact, we always have a spring market.
That's an interesting thing you talked about in our economic look at 2025. How about that?
Right, exactly.
Is that we always have a spring market. And that we're in a normal real estate cycle, meaning we see the peak in May, June, July, and then it falls off. And
that's exactly right.
Best time to buy a house is January. Everything's normal.
I can pull data back to 1990, monthly data for DFW.
Oh, that's right. You did that.
Yes, exactly. And so I can say that our normal cycle is January is going to be the lowest price of the year.
Wow.
We tend to increase in terms of price through the spring months. That's our spring market. We peak usually in June, and then we start to pull back into the fall. We typically bounce about October in terms of price and head a little higher.
Yeah.
And then we start the cycle over again and over again and over again. And so if you ask me, are you worried if there's going to be a spring market? Tamera, I hate to tell you, but yeah, it is.
There is going to be a spring market.
Yes,
so yes, this is one of the questions I do have is, are we going to have what is our spring market going to look like? And you're thinking normal.
I think we're going to have a normal market. And
even with some of our other conversations now, spoiler alert, we're skipping ahead a little bit, but you had been talking about a recession too. So fit that into.
So why don't we save the discussion on where I think the spring market's going until the end?
Until we get to the recession conversation.
So we're going to talk about the bad news now.
So talk about how the economy flows. Let's set the stage.
The economy is a living, breathing beast, and it breathes in and out. We have periods of expansion. We have periods of peaks, then contraction and valleys. That's normal. And to me, I think that we've been teetering on the edge of a recession for over a year now.
Over a year.
Mm-hmm. I started calling for a recession last October, and I guess one day I'll be right.
One day we'll see refis too.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
one day
right.
Interest rates will fall.
The one key factor that I'm watching right now that I believe that the Federal Reserve has turned their attention towards is unemployment.
Okay.
The unemployment rate sitting around 4.3%. It's highest in a year and a half. I'm watching that unemployment rate, and I have been for over a year now, to say whenever it starts heading higher, generally a recession follows. Now, I don't know how deep or how long it's going to last. That's a key factor. But recession, consumers tend to pull back on spending.
Yep.
We see consumers losing jobs.
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve slashes rates during a recession to try and get us to spend more to pull us out of that recession. That's what I think, in my opinion, I believe that the Federal Reserve has been watching for a long time now. We focused a lot on inflation. Their rhetoric is now turning towards unemployment, and I think that that's a reason why.
Okay, but we're in a government shutdown. So how are we watching unemployment numbers?
That's the key.
I teed you up for that one.
Yeah, you teed me up there. We don't have those numbers. We can't get to those numbers. Now we've got to feel. Some of your gurus in New York say the Fed has enough data. They've got enough from private industry that they can see. I think that they still want the hard, unbiased information coming out of what is the official unemployment rate for the
but
US.
didn't we have also an inflation of numbers?
We did. Yes, possibly so. Absolutely. You're right. And there's criticism about even gross domestic product, the value of everything we produce in the economy. I'm hesitant about, do we really need to change how we measure that? Because if we do, then we can't compare historically what we've done. So I'm even with some bias that's in there. We need to fix that bias, absolutely, if we find it. It's the best numbers that we have.
Okay. So we're going to estimate unemployment numbers.
I think Congressional Budget Office has been saying that they expect unemployment rate to go to 4.6% by December.
Where's the trigger? Meaning,
I think that to me is a trigger. I think I'm very, very worried.
Okay.
Whenever that starts increasing, generally recessions follow. We've had 7 recessions since 1972, and every single time unemployment bottomed out and then headed higher, and that recession followed. We have seen very, very low unemployment for a long time, and now the pandemic really threw a wrench into everything. Mm-hmm. We don't need to compare anything to the pandemic time period. I mean, we shut down the world's economy.
Right.
Sellers don't need to look at the pandemic. That was insane as far as how prices were moving to the upside and how fast they were moving to the upside. So going back, I do think unemployment's been at a low, and now we're starting to tick higher. That's worrisome to me. I say if we're going to have a recession, let's just get into it. Let's get it over with.
Well, what are your thoughts for Q1 2026?
The earliest that we could define a recession right now would be at the end of Q1.
You said, told me that.
I believe that January is going to be our lowest price in terms of housing, and we will get a spring market. Now, how strong that spring market is going to be, I don't know. But I do believe that April, May, June prices are going to be higher than what they are in January.
But that's normal.
That's normal.
That's normal.
That's normal. And every single time that we've had a recession, we have still seen that same activity. Sometimes it's a little bit more exaggerated. Sometimes it's a little more muted. But May and June prices are higher than January in DFW.
Okay, so you predict or you think that we're going to hit a recession at the end of Q1.
I think that's the earliest that we can define it, formally define it.
Okay. And if we go into a recession, then we predict that the Fed will start slashing
That's right.
rates.
That's right.
But there's a difference between the Fed rates and the mortgage rates.
Hello. 100%. 100%. They are not
so
directly
can we please
tied.
talk about that for one second? Because every time the Fed cuts rates, then we see all of these, oh my God, it's a great time to refi. It's a great time to buy the house. The rate's lower. No, they didn't.
You're 100% correct. The Federal Reserve's rate, that is how much banks can borrow money, what the rate will be charged to banks to borrow money from the Fed. It's not what you and I can borrow money for a home, for a car, anything. Mortgage rates are tied very, very closely to the 10-year bond. 10-year bond rates. You watch what the 10-year bond's doing, and then you'll know pretty closely what's going to happen with mortgage rates. Now, lenders, they're in a competitive business. So they try and predict what's going to happen to those 10-year bonds ahead of time. And so a lot of times you'll see the Fed's going to cut rates and mortgage rates may actually even go up because it's already been baked in, is what they say. We've already baked in that cut ahead of time because they're competing with each other and they compete with rates.
Okay, so explain that to the audience. So whenever the Fed cuts rates, that does not affect mortgage rates because the reduction in mortgage rates has already been
baked in. It's already been accounted for. They've already anticipated that.
So what affects a mortgage rate cut?
The 10-year bonds.
Right.
If you see the 10-year bonds going down, trending down, then absolutely you're going to see mortgage rates are going to be coming down.
So what do we...
And we trade those on a daily basis. The 10-year bonds trade on a daily basis.
Okay. So is there any formula to watch to
Not
know?
Really.
Okay.
Not really. It's almost like trading stocks.
Okay.
There's ebbs and flows of money into and out of basically trying to determine which way is that 10-year bond going to go. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down?
So you need to talk to your mortgage professional to see where mortgage rates are
100%.
And see if they feel like there's going to be any type of a mortgage rate reduction. But this is all prediction, right? Nobody can really see when this is going to happen.
Well, Tamera, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say if I'm a buyer, I would rather rates be 8-9%.
Ooh, that's controversial.
That's right. But okay, look at it this way. Let's say that you have a home to sell and rates are at 8-9%. How many buyers are in that market? Very, very few.
Yeah, very few.
I don't want competition if I'm a buyer. The competition I want is between me, the buyer, and you, the seller.
Yeah.
So I want rates to be higher because I know you, the seller, is going to be softer. You're going to offer more concessions to me, the buyer.
True.
Now, as soon as I close, I want rates to come down and come down fast.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Because a mortgage is made up of two basic factors: how much I finance and my rate. Now, we do have property taxes and insurance in there.
Oh, yeah, and that's becoming a big problem.
That's exactly right. But how much I finance, I have control over that today. And I only get one chance to lock that in. How much am I going to finance? My rate, I have 30 years to lock that in. Mm-hmm. So I would rather you, the seller, be softer. I would rather be in the market whenever most of the buyers are not. And most of the buyers, they're not in the market in January. They're in the market in June. That's whenever we see the peak number of sales. That's whenever buyers are out actively looking. So if you lock me in and say, I want you to pick 1 month to buy a house, I want to buy in January.
I need Betsy Nelson to pay attention to this podcast.
I know for...
That's my best friend. She's like, I'm going to buy a new house. I'm like, yeah, January, girl.
That's right.
January.
I'm going to have the least amount of competition. Yeah. And I don't want competition.
Well, that's right. You don't.
Nope.
But
inventory's lower.
I know, but you're tapping into a problem here. So what we're seeing now is all of the people that bought in 21, when they bought peak of the market, interest rates were already going up. We're starting to see an affordability problem because their taxes have gone up and their insurance has gone up, right? So everybody, it's November 4th. I hope you voted because one of the things on the table is the homestead exemption increase. So, we're really wanting to have that to help reduce some of the taxes our Texans are paying. But
not just the homestead exemption, but also the homestead exemption for over 65 and disabled as well.
Thank you for that. Yes, it is on the table.
That's another one that's on the ballot.
Yes, that one's very important as well. There's a lot of really important things that we need to vote on today. So, I want to address this though, and because we're starting to see those painful sales, right? Meaning those sellers are in a really big pain point and they're trying to get out of their house. Although the market is rejecting their pricing, that's a new term instead of a price reduction. The market is rejecting your price. So how are we going to work with this issue? I know you just went to a class with appraisers. Right. And you guys talked about this exact topic. So what did you learn or what were your takeaways from that class?
Well, before I get to that, what I'm going to say is that real estate agents, again, going back to how we pull comps 3 months ago, well, that's not the same market as today. You've got to stay ahead of that market. Sellers need to stay ahead of where the market is. Everything will sell if it's priced right.
Okay, but my clients all feel the same. We're in rooms talking about this right now. I've priced it right.
Okay.
And the house is turnkey and it's ready to go. Like no one's biting, right?
Very, very few buyers in the market. I would agree with that. Typically, we're not going to have as many buyers in the market today in November as what we did in June.
Sure, but at some point where we've reduced the price of the property to a point where it doesn't make sense to sell, right? It's below what the value is. So how did you, what thoughts did you and the appraisers have about how to handle this?
Well, the appraisers brought out some very good information.
And I know about comps, but that's what we got, Blake.
Right, exactly.
That's what we got.
Right. I'm going to make the comment, though, June's price is typically about 5.75% above what we see in September, October.
So we need to factor in the price reduction.
We need to factor in that market typical movement of home prices throughout the year. The appraisers brought out some interesting things that I had not thought about. I don't have the data for it. The appraisers, in their opinion, this year's price is going to be relatively flat compared to last year.
Okay.
That's what they're seeing. I would agree with that.
Okay.
I think that, sure, 2025's prices are flat compared to 2024. Would agree with that. One thing that they brought out that I found very interesting, and I connected a lot of dots, appraisers said that back during the pandemic, their job was relatively easy because prices were going up so fast. There was no problem getting a home to appraise, to get a loan.
Okay.
It was, and the lenders.
I remember a lot of conflicts back then, though.
Well, but
still with the appraisers and what the realtor knew what they could sell the house, what the value of the house was, right? We've always had
Yes.
a little bit of conflict between what appraisers value and what realtors value the houses.
Absolutely.
I'm raising my realtor flag here,
Right.
So I know we've always had
conflict. In
conflict.
terms of lenders were a little bit, it was easier to get a loan is what the appraisers came down with.
Okay.
Because prices were going up and going up and going up, a very fast moving market to the upside. In today's market, where we're starting to see it pull back, lenders are getting a little bit, their regulations and their requirements are a little bit tighter now. So it is more difficult to get a loan today than what it was in 2021 because prices were going up. Lenders were a little bit backing off their cautious nature, which makes sense. You wonder now. There are people that are in homes that equity-wise on paper, yes, they have negative equity in the home. I argue you don't have negative equity until you sell.
True.
Until you sell, it's on paper.
Yeah.
Tamera, I'll ask you a question. If I could give you a credit card or a
we
debit
talked about
card,
this one
a
yesterday.
debit card with an unlimited amount of money on it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back.
Unlimited black card.
I'm sending you back to the future. I'm giving you my DeLorean and my flux capacitor.
Yeah.
You hit 88 miles an hour, and I get to pick the date that you go back to.
Okay. What date is that?
You're gonna go back to 2007, right before the Great Recession started.
Got it.
The day before. Housing prices are blowing and going. This is before the 08 housing crisis. So you're gonna be buying a house at the peak or houses, because remember, you have unlimited funds.
Yeah.
I send you back to that date. You have 24 hours. How many homes are you buying?
All of them. Everything available. Every single house available. I'm going to sweep the MLS and just put it all under contract.
That's exactly right. And then you're going to hold.
And I won't. And then I wouldn't be here today on the podcast. I'll be in an island somewhere that I bought.
Right. Because today's prices have obliterated what we did in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
Even right before the 08 crash.
Yeah.
We've obliterated those prices. Someone today, if they're sitting on a home and they say, "Oh no, I have negative equity because I bought at the peak during the pandemic," you need to hold. You'll have positive equity.
I do think they need to hold. They're trying to sell too quickly. Now, hopefully, or unfortunately, I think there is a segment of the market that is being forced out of their house of an affordability issue, right?
That's
they
exactly
had to buy at the peak. Their mortgage payment, their interest rates haven't come down to where they can refinance. Property taxes have gone up. Insurance has gone
getting
up.
Free money from the federal government.
Yes.
And we did what every good-blooded American does. We went out and bought toys, and we financed those toys at a very low interest rate.
A lot of high credit card debt right now.
That's exactly
People are
right.
drowning. People are drowning.
Very much so. Very much so. And that is a problem. Forced sale, I understand the pain, and that is a problem. Feeling like you're trapped in your home now, which is something that I find interesting. I've heard from some homeowners, well, I'm stuck here now. I have a 2.75 or a 3.1 rate on my mortgage. I can't move. I'm stuck.
Well, that's malarkey, and we all know it.
Well, and
they're not stuck.
It's one that they feel trapped now, and I find that fascinating for consumer behavior.
I agree.
That isn't. I hope we never see rates that low again. It took us shutting down the whole economy to get those.
Yeah,
I never want to see that again.
No, agreed. Although it was nice.
Absolutely, it was wonderful.
But now we're paying for it.
But
in ways,
because consumers feeling trapped in a home, that is fascinating to me. That you bought the home then thinking this is my forever home, and now you want something new. That we want to move. That's what we do. I talk in front of real estate agents all the time, and how long am I going to stay there? 5-7 years? Is that the average? We move a lot, and now they're feeling trapped. stuck. Those are the words that I'm hearing, and I find that fascinating.
So what do we have to say to them?
You've got equity. You've got a rate that you're never going to see again. And many of them are asking, are we ever going to see rates this low again so that I can move? I don't want to.
No. I think, look, everyone that in my circle and that we've talked about is if we see them kiss the fives, then we'll open up this pent-up demand. It'll be close enough for consumers that they'll go ahead and say, okay, this is doable now. So, and that our pent-up demand problem will solve itself.
Right. You look at historically, average rate, 7%. We're good.
Yeah, we're below that right now.
That's exactly right. Now, property taxes and insurance, that's a whole other segment.
Sure. But with all of this, okay, so we kind of led up to this question. Is what we're seeing right now, the conversation we just had about where consumers are, do we think that this is going to help us with see an increase in foreclosures? I don't want that. That's bad.
I don't want it either. But talking to lenders, yes, we're seeing that. We're seeing consumers strapped from inflation that started occurring back during the pandemic. We saw a massive run up in prices then, and the cost of just living is still going up, but it's at a more normal rate now. But we're still building on what we started during the pandemic. Property taxes and insurance. Insurance is changing completely in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I know. I need to have Nick back on the show, I think.
A lot of risk off.
State of the insurance industry.
A lot of risk off from insurance companies. And now I'll be the first one to say insurance companies started taking it and getting hit pretty hard nationwide starting in 2020. They weren't ready for the number of claims that they got. We got some big hurricanes that came through that did massive damage in the Southeast. These insurance companies are nationwide. So they start pulling back to get their books in order. They were losing money bad because they were paying out so many claims. And the reinsurance market, which insurance companies buy insurance themselves, the reinsurance market took huge hits and a lot of those companies pulled out. Lloyd's of London, Berkshire Hathaway. And we see those big ones pulling out. Well, now insurance companies themselves are facing higher rates that they're paying. And so they have to pass it on to the consumer. They also pull out of high-risk areas. Texas happens to be a high-risk area. We have hail. And typically, in the past, Texans have gotten in the mode of, we're going to get a hail, we're going to get a new roof from insurance once every 10 years. Now they're tightening down on that. And so I think that, yes, insurance is changing and changing drastically. I'm hearing a lot of deductibles going up, not just 1 or 2 points, but
with 3 or
yeah.
Yeah,
and that's expensive.
It's so they don't want to cover roofs anymore.
And then, as you
I think
mentioned,
that's what we're moving
credit
towards.
card debt. We financed a lot of our spending.
Very sad,
and it is.
And that's another reason to get out. If you're in debt, that's another reason to give up your little 2.5 or 3% interest rate is for debt consolidation. It makes sense.
Yes,
you want to lower your overall debt problem, right? 100%. And so you can do a debt consolidation, get out of some of that credit card debt because you're just going to keep drowning. It's just a tough place for Texans to be in right now. It's a very tough place.
That is suffocating. Debt is suffocating, and be careful with that.
It makes me, I've been talking about this for a long time that I want Texans to be able to afford housing in Texas. And at what point have we just made that an impossible thing,
Well, and I think that in your major metropolitan areas, the prices have run up so high, not so bad, but so high. First-time home buyers, very, very difficult. Someone that is very price sensitive, maybe their debt to income, their income levels don't match what they can afford in the major metropolitan areas. Look on the Fringe. The Fringe, to me, is where it's at for first-time home buyers or somebody in a financial situation that they cannot afford inside the city. You'll get a more favorable price. You could potentially get a similar or even upgraded product, and your insurance rates are typically lower on the fringe in your in your
non-PID, non-PUD.
Well, no, your
counties,
your counties that are not as high density.
Because when I was on the fringe. I'm
Right.
not on the fringe anymore.
No.
But I also am in a PID, and I'm like, I just got my tax bill, and I was like, okay, fun.
Right.
Fun.
That's exactly
That's
right.
going to be fun.
And that's a whole other segment if you want to talk about those.
No. When it comes to fighting taxes, nobody can do it better than you.
Well, I can say this. We can argue all day long and try and bring our value down.
Yeah.
And we do that. We argue, we protest our values. But when was the last time that you went to a school board meeting or went to a city council or a county commissioners meeting where they're setting the tax rates? Realize our property tax bill, yes, it's our value, but it's multiplied by the tax rate. So you can argue all day long on your value to go down, but if the tax rate goes up by a higher percentage, your taxes are going up. Mm-hmm. So watch the tax rate.
I'm going to have you back when it's time to fight taxes. So, because I know you can do a great job educating the audience. Okay, so on our way out, last kind of question I wanted to ask you, is there something we can leave the audience with that is a positive note?
Going back to 1990, that cycle in prices as well as home purchases in DFW, it's not shaking off that trend. January is our lowest price. June's going to be our highest price. Probably 11% run between January and May and June.
Okay.
To the upside in home values. Right. We will pull back after the June time period. We'll pull back into the fall. We will level out October and head higher. There's only been 1 year, Tamera, since 1990 that we did not see that trend hold. And that was not during the housing market crisis of 2008. That was during 2020.
Yeah, I was going to guess 2020.
January was our lowest price.
Yeah.
We got a spring market that never stopped.
We sure did.
In 2020.
Took off like a bullet.
It took closing down the U.S. and world economy to shake us off that trend. Mm-hmm. So we will get a spring market. Prices in June will be higher than in January. That's what if you're going to take me and say you got one bet at a casino, that's what I'm betting.
Okay. Everybody do your business planning. Let's tee it up for 2026, and then let's get it ready for our regular cycle.
Get your buyers out now.
True.
Now through January, February, because we get into March, you're into the spring. Mm-hmm. And you'll get more selection. Absolutely you will, but you're going to pay for that selection.
Well, that's a great place to stop for today. So thank you so much for being on the show with me, Blake.
I appreciate it so much.
So
Welcome
good
to
see
November.
you.
Can you believe it? November
No,
2025.
it just turned the time change, and now it's dark time in the winter, and I don't like it. So anyway, but that's a whole nother podcast. I could talk about summer forever. Anyway, thank you again for joining me on the show today. Always a pleasure, Blake. That's a wrap on episode number 110. And I'm your host, Tamera Gaede. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So give me an opportunity to talk to you about your title needs and make it a great day.